Hello, everyone. This is going to be chapter 12 lecture. This is what we're getting into for the next, for this module: stress, health, and coping. Basically, stress is just defined as a negative emotional state occurring in response to events that are perceived as taxing or exceeding a person's resources or ability to cope. Remember, every person is different. What one person considers stressful, another person may not. It's also situational. One day you may not bother you, but then the topic keeps coming up, it will bother you. Also, the person, there are some people who, no matter what, nothing bothers them because they choose not to let it bother them. I try not to stress out because, I'm already kind of chunky and I'll have a heart attack. So, no stress equals more cake. So, I try not to let things bother me as much. I tend to let things go. Why bother stressing out over it, especially if I can't control it? So these are things that you need to be aware of, okay? And that's the cognitive appraisal model of stress. It's the individual's evaluation of the events and situations, and then the resources available to deal with that situation, okay? So again, everybody will be different. Everybody will handle stress differently. Everybody will cope with it differently. You just got to remember everybody's different. But the key thing here is all of you are young. You need to learn how to deal with stress now. Stress is a part of life. You cannot avoid it. It can come from relationships, from work, from money, from outside forces, whatever. You need to start dealing with healthy coping mechanisms now and stick to them with whatever works for you. Events are not stressful in of themselves, but stress is determined by your subjective response. So how you reply to them, how do you react? Remember, it's just like words. Words only hurt us if we let them. Some people can hear a racist joke and it not bother them, while others will become highly offended. It's because you are the one who's determining how to react to it. You can decide whether not to let you bother you or move on. Okay? Reevaluate and reevaluate coping strategies. We try to cope with it and manage it, stressful circumstances. If the coping effects are successful, stress will decrease. If it's unsuccessful, then stress will increase. Okay? So, again, you need to decide how you are going to cope with stress and develop these strategies now to where they're beneficial for you. I am going to skip around on these slides, so please just follow along. But please make sure you go through them all. Now, there are stressors, which are events that are perceived as harmful, threatening, or challenging. Again, every person will determine things differently. But there is a social readjustment rating scale. It talks about 43 life events, having a baby, money, bills, school, education. These are all things that can be a factor. Marital status, I'm single, so I don't have to deal with any of that. Those of you who are married, you guys will have a different set. Okay, so just make sure that you're aware of these and learn how to cope with them. Slide 7, there are traumatic events. Events or situations that are negative, severe, or far beyond our normal expectations for everyday life. These are the unexpected things. A car accident. This is not something that happens to you every day unless you're a bad driver. But these are things that happen that are stressful. Okay? When they become so intense and are repeated, sometimes people may develop the PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. Okay? For most people, will recover from this without ever developing it. But it just depends again on the person. How long do you dwell on it? How long does it bother you? I've always given the example. I do not have PTSD even though I was in the military. I was surrounded by gunfire. I worked in the arms room. I heard bullets every day. I've had people shoot at me. It wasn't fun. So, when it's 4th of July, I hear fireworks. I can smell gunpowder. I actually smell it, even though it's just fireworks going off. But for me, it is not a traumatic, post traumatic stress disorder. It doesn't stop me from functioning. I'm able to cope and realize, okay, It's just fireworks, I'm fine, and I move on. Okay? So again, it depends on the person, it depends on you, who you are. But remember, anybody can fall victim to this. Some people with very strong personalities and stuff have fallen victim to post traumatic stress disorder. It can happen to anybody, so don't assume, oh, I'm strong. It can happen to you. Slide 9 talks about daily hassles. These are everyday minor events that annoy and upset people. Um, you know, you're driving to work and it starts raining and, the wipers don't work. The person in front of you is driving so slow and you can't get around them, so that can annoy you. You go to make copies at a copy machine, the copier broken. Little things like that. They tend to annoy and upset you. How much they bother you, though, is a better predictor of physical illness and symptoms. So, if you get annoyed by these simple little daily hassles, the big major life events that you will experience are totally going to cause you to fall apart. Okay? So, take a look at yourself. Do these little daily hassles annoy you or do you deal with them fine? That's a good indicator that the big major ones may not be able to, you may not be able to stress. So if you want to reevaluate yourself, look at them. Remember, gender is something that will always impact everything. So women are more likely to report daily stressors that are associated with friends and family. Men tend to be more hassled by stressors that are school related or work related. Okay. Now, this just has the ability to deal with men, the way we cope things, the way we bother them, how we deal with them, things like that. Going home for us is a stress reliever, you know. Also, social expectations. Unfortunately, women, when they get home, they tend to do more of the domestic work. So they will cook the dinner, take care of the families, and work on top of that. So, of course, for them, it stresses them both out. For men, unfortunately, it's not, unless you're in that situation where the man is the caregiver. So social norms plays a very big part of this, and it's not fair because again, you should be sharing the workload. Slide 11. Stress does lead to burnout. Characteristics of burnout, you need to talk about the exhaustion and depletion of emotional and physical resources. Being cynic, demonstrating negative or overly detached attitudes. What causes this? Overloads, lack of control. What is a solution? A sense of community. Know that you are not the only one that is dealing with this. So, social support is a very big, important part of how to cope with stress. Surround yourself with positive people. That will help you a lot. Stress of adapting to new cultures. So, those of you who have ever gone to a new country or anything like that, you need to deal with stress. Here it gives you some examples on slide 14 that you can read on your own. Slide 17, physical effects of stress that will affect the body. So there is a connection between your mind and your body. There is proven studies out there that say healthy mind, healthy body. You can be in great physical shape, but your brain could be out of control. You could be very stressed, fly off the handle. It will affect how you handle this. So stress can indirectly affect a person's health by prompting behaviors that jeopardize physical well-being, such as not eating or sleeping properly. Stress can directly affect physical health by altering body functions, leading to symptoms of illness or disease. So, cardiovascular disease, heartburn, upset stomach, diarrhea, going to the bathroom, things like that can be directly affected by stress. Okay? So, make sure that you know if your sleeping pattern goes off, then this is indirectly. Look at the stress. If your stomach's out of whack and stuff like that, then it is directly affected by stress. Deal with the stress. For most people, it is the fight or flight, but as I told you all, research now has shown that there is a third one, fight or flight or freeze response. So when you handle stress, what do? Are you the first one to fight? Are you the first one to fly away? Or do you freeze and pretend like nobody can see you? Just don't deal with it. You need to be careful with this because, of course, not dealing with stress, it does add up. It does lead to other problems. It does have an impact on your health. So make sure you learn how to deal with stress. Like I told you before, you need to learn this. The study of this, the interdisciplinary field that studies all of this, is psychoneuroimmunology. If I pronounce that wrong, I don't care. You try to say it better. But this is the study, so make sure you know this one. This is what looks at everything. So, stress that has an impact, the psychological processes, and how it impacts the nervous system and the immune system. Okay, so make sure you learn this term. Stress that influence immune system, highly stressful events, and common stresses are associated with reduced immune system. So when you are highly stressed out, you are more receptive to getting like a common cold, illnesses, and things like that. Your body's not operating at full strength. You're not going to recover from a simple head cold or anything like that. Bigger issues, it does lead to more severe things, like I said, heart attacks, strokes. Okay. So, here are some examples of some of the things, the end of a interpersonal relationship. So, this is one that is close. Marital arguments, pressure of exams, these are all things like that because it all impacts this. Okay. Your immune system goes down, so it's not able to fight off these diseases as quickly as possible, the way it normally would. Let's go to slide 29. Personal control is something that you need to learn. Feeling of control of self-producing event often reduces psychological distress or physical arousal. So, what do you do to do this? When you start feeling, some of you may already know now you're getting stressed out, you have to leave the room to calm down because you might say the wrong thing or you might jump to a conclusion or you might hit somebody. Others of you, flight, fight, get ready, pow, punch them. Things like that. So it does talk about the nursing home residents who had opportunities to make choices. They have more high control when they were more active and alert and healthier than those who do not, low control. So if you're active and you're engaged in the problem solving, coming up for solutions on how to handle it, you are high control. You feel more in control. You're controlling your destiny, so then you will be able to reduce the stress. Okay? Make sure you read through all this information in your book. We're going to jump to slide 40. Here are some coping strategies, problem focused coping, aimed at managing or controlling the stressor. And it's most effective when control can be exercised, when you can control the problem. You know what the problem is. Okay? It talks about confrontive coping. You take an active and or risky tactic to get it done, but it is not hostile. So you head the problem off quickly. Maybe you have to change something, diet. Maybe you need to eliminate that person that's causing you the stress. Whatever it is, you are taking an active strategy, but you still feel in control of it. So that's what helps you to deal with the problem a lot easier. But again, remember I told you from the beginning, everybody is different. Everybody deals with stress differently. Planful problem solving is one thing that you can do. You need to analyze the situation first of all. There is a thing called transference, remember? When we transfer our emotions to somebody else. You're having a bad day and then somebody comes along and you yell at them and take it out on them. Well, it was because you were transferring those emotions. What really caused it? Another thing is your self talk. You. You could be having these negative thoughts in your head and then you fail, but then you blame somebody else. So be real with yourself. What is bothering you? And then identify solutions. What can solve this problem? Some can be, just like I said before, very risky and aggressive. If there's a person in your life and they keep causing you drama, unfortunately, maybe the best thing for you to do is to eliminate that person from your life. Okay? The last step, of course, is implementing solutions. You got to do this. You come up with the plan. Now it's time to execute. Make sure you know these three, okay? Some of the gender things you need to remember, men tend to withdraw from their families, wanting to be left alone. For men, it's a lot easier to forget a problem. If something's bothering us, we can just put it out of our head. We have that gift. Women tend to seek out interactions with their marital partners. They want advice, they want support. This comes in with the listening styles. And the women likely to seek out and use social support when under stress because they want supportive listening. They want people advice to, how to do it. Not really advice, excuse me, I shouldn't say that, but they want to know that they're not alone in this process. Men tend to, when they talk to other people, they want advice. They want somebody to help them solve the problem. Okay? Emotion, because of course, emotions are a very big part of this. I'm sure all of you have heard of this, what's called the Stoic philosophy, that people like this try to live to where nothing bothers them. They don't let it go. I tried to use that, but some things I can be very stoic about, other things I cannot. But this occurs when people believe nothing can be done to alter a situation. So let it go, let it go, let it go. Be like that stupid Disney movie, Let It Go. I can't change it. What is that? There's also another, Jesus, give me the strength to know that there's things I can't handle and things, and I don't even know what it is. If somebody knows it, please help me out. But, there are things that we can't control. So why let it bother us? Okay. Other things that we can do, it says right there: escape, avoidance, seeking social support, distancing, denial, positive reappraisal, negative religious coping. These are all examples in your book, so make sure you read through them. Make sure you get this information. Okay, minimizing the effects, of course, avoid or minimize the use of stimulants. So, no drinking, drugs. It says another thing: exercise regularly, but I have seen studies that say that exercising is bad for dealing stress. We'll talk about this in a discussion board, so we'll move on. Get enough sleep. Again, remember when you are sleeping healthy, you're rejuvenating the body, where the body is resting, so you're able to think more clearly. You feel rested, you can tackle things on. So remember that. And then practice a relaxation or meditation technique. This is highly important, and then, like I said, we'll talk about this in the discussion. But these are some tips that you can do. Again, for everybody, it's completely different. What works for one person may not work for another. So now all of you are very young. You're in stressful situations because you're in college. You have to deal with work. Some of you have families. So it's good to learn now how to handle stress. You cannot avoid it, it is a part of life. So you need to learn on how to process it and how to handle it and cope with it. So please try doing some strategies like this, learn some things and apply them. Okay? If you guys have any questions, please let me know, but please make sure you read through the chapter because I know I went through this pretty fast. This is a long video, so I apologize for that. I should have broke it up into part one and part two, but I didn't. So make sure you read through the books. Make sure you pay attention to what I've told you to pay attention to, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.